Off the coast of Nova Scotia, in a bay scattered with hundreds of islands, there is one that people die on. It is barely a mile long. For more than 2 centuries, it has consumed fortunes, careers, and 6 human lives. And after all of that, after millions of dollars and generations of obsession, no one has ever proven what lies beneath it, or whether anything does. This is Oak Island, and this is the world's most dangerous treasure hunt. The story begins in the summer of 1795 with a teenager named Daniel McGuinness. Exploring the island's eastern end, he found something that did not belong. A circular depression in the ground, roughly 13 feet across, sunk beneath the branches of an old oak tree. The legend, and it is legend, recorded decades after the fact, says a ship's block and tackle hung from a sawn-off limb directly above the hollow. Whether that pulley ever existed, we cannot say. What we can say is that McGuinness believed someone had buried something there, and that belief would outlive him by 200 years. He returned with 2 friends, John Smith and Anthony Vaughan, and they began to dig. 2 feet down, they struck a layer of flagstones, stones that did not occur naturally on the island. Someone had laid them there, deliberately. And beneath the stones, the boys found the walls of an old shaft with the pick marks of earlier hands still visible in the clay. 3 teenagers, alone on an island, digging into a hole that somebody had gone to enormous trouble to fill. They had no idea what they had started. At 10 feet, they hit a platform of oak logs, sealed across the shaft like a lid. They tore it out and kept digging. At 20 feet, according to the early accounts, another platform. At 30, another. Think about what that means. Whoever built this shaft did not simply bury something, they engineered it, layer after layer, a structure descending into the earth with a regularity that spoke of planning, labor, and secrecy. The boys stopped at 30 feet, exhausted. But the hole now had a name: the Money Pit. In 1804, the first organized expedition, the Onslow Company, took up the dig. The platforms reportedly continued every 10 feet, and between them, the workers pulled up something stranger than timber. Layers of fiber, matted, brown, unmistakable. Coconut fiber. The nearest coconut palm grows around 1,500 miles to the south, yet here it was, packed into a shaft in the cold clay of Nova Scotia, in quantities later measured by the ton. That fiber has been examined in modern laboratories. It is real, and it is old. It remains one of the few pieces of physical evidence on Oak Island that no skeptic has fully explained away. Then, at 90 feet, the diggers found a flat stone bearing strange carved symbols. Decades later, a translation circulated. 40 feet below, 2 million pounds are buried. Understand what that translation is. It surfaced more than 60 years after the stone was found, promoted by men selling shares in the dig. The stone itself passed through several hands and then vanished entirely. No photograph of it survives. The inscription may have promised treasure, or it may have promised nothing at all. The workers pried the stone loose, probed the ground beneath, and struck something solid at 98 feet. A vault, perhaps. A chest. They went home for the night, planning to lift it out in the morning. By dawn, the pit held 60 feet of seawater. They bailed. The water returned. They dug a parallel shaft to come at the treasure from the side. It flooded too, nearly drowning the men inside. And slowly, a terrible realization took shape. This was not groundwater. The pit rose and fell with the tide. In 1850, searchers at a nearby beach called Smith's Cove made the discovery that changed everything. Beneath the sand lay a fan of stone box drains, converging like fingers into a single channel, running underground toward the money pit. The beach itself, they concluded, had been rebuilt as a giant filter, feeding the sea into a hidden tunnel. If that interpretation is right, then whoever dug the pit had built a hydraulic booby trap. Dig too deep, break the seal, and the Atlantic Ocean becomes the guardian of whatever lies below. Skeptics argue the flooding is natural, that the island's limestone is riddled with channels the sea finds on its own. Perhaps. But the searchers of 1850 stood on that beach, looked at those drains, and saw the work of human hands. The question was no longer just what was buried. It was who could possibly have built this. The oldest answer is a pirate. Captain William Kidd, hanged in London in 1701, was rumoured to have buried a vast hoard before his capture. Kidd did bury treasure, once, on Gardiner's Island near New York. It was found within weeks. There is no record placing him at Oak Island, and the engineering of the pit, the platforms, the drains, sits uneasily with a crew working fast and frightened. Pirates dug holes. They did not, as far as history records, build tide-driven flood systems. A grander theory reaches further back. The Knights Templar, destroyed in the early 1300s, their fabled wealth never recovered. Some believe surviving Templars carried their relics across the Atlantic, a century and a half before Columbus, and sealed them beneath Oak Island. The Holy Grail itself, in the boldest tellings, it is a magnificent story. The evidence for it is essentially nothing. No document, no artifact, no verified Templar presence anywhere in North America. Believe it if you wish. History does not. And then there is the strangest theory of all, that the pit holds manuscripts proving Sir Francis Bacon wrote the plays of William Shakespeare, preserved in Mercury and buried in the one vault no one could reach. Traces of Mercury have reportedly been found on the island. As proof of Elizabethan conspiracy, it is thin beyond measure. As a story, it refuses to die. 3 theories: a pirate, an order of knights, a hidden author. Each less plausible than the last, and each more seductive. Because here is the uncomfortable truth about Oak Island. The hole is real. The engineering appears real, and every explanation for it, from the mundane to the mythical, has a gap at its center. Gaps like that pull people in, and some of them never come back out. The legend says 7 must die before Oak Island gives up its treasure. No one knows where the prophecy began, but the deaths are not legend. They are on record, and there are 6 of them. The first came in 1861, when a pumping engine's boiler burst and scalded a worker to death. In 1897, a labourer named Maynard Kaiser was being hauled up a shaft when the rope slipped its pulley. He fell to the bottom. Then came the 17th of August, 1965. Robert Restall, a former stunt rider, had spent 6 years living on the island with his family, chasing the treasure in a canvas-roofed shack. That afternoon, working at a shaft near Smith's Cove, he was overcome, most likely by gas pooling at the bottom, and collapsed into the water. His son, Robert Jr., climbed down after him. He collapsed too. Carl Grazer went in next, then a teenage worker, Cyril Hiltz. One after another, each man descending to save the one before. 4 men died in that shaft in a single afternoon. 6 lives, 1 short of the prophecy. And the island's reach extends further than most people realize. Among the investors who once put money into the hunt was a young New York lawyer who visited the island in 1909 with the Old Gold Salvage Company, and who followed news of the dig for the rest of his life, even from the White House. His name was Franklin Delano Roosevelt, a future president of the United States, drawn in by the same hole 3 teenagers found under an oak tree. The pit does not discriminate. It takes laborers and it tempts presidents. And in our century, it met the machines. Today, the treasure hunt is industrial. Since the mid-2000s, brothers Rick and Marty Lagina have led the most heavily funded operation in the island's history, backed by engineers, divers, and a television audience of millions. Sonic drills bore through the clay, pulling core samples from depths the early diggers could only imagine. Seismic surveys fire shock waves into the ground and read the echoes, mapping voids and disturbed earth far below. Water drawn from the boreholes is analyzed for traces of dissolved gold, and some samples, the researchers report, have shown them. Then there is borehole 10X. Sunk in the 1970s by the searcher Dan Blankenship, it drops more than 200 feet into a flooded cavity. In 1971, a camera lowered into that darkness returned grainy images that Blankenship swore showed a chest, tools, and a severed human hand. The footage is ambiguous at best. Divers have since descended into 10X, into black water and zero visibility, and found nothing conclusive. That is the pattern of the modern hunt. Fragments of old wood at impossible depths, traces of metal in the water, anomalies on the scans, always evidence of something, never the something itself. 2 centuries of digging have left the island's eastern end so churned, so honeycombed with shafts and collapses that the original money pit can no longer be precisely located. The searchers destroyed the very thing they were searching. The machines are winning the battle against the geology, but the island is winning the war. So return, one last time, to the summer of 1795. Imagine standing beside Daniel McGuinness at the edge of that shallow depression, before any of it. The flooding, the theories, the deaths. And consider a darker possibility, that the treasure was never gold. That whoever engineered the pit, if anyone did, built it not to protect something, but simply to be found. Layer after layer, clue after clue, each one just rewarding enough to keep men digging. A trap does not need to hold treasure. It only needs bait. And the bait of Oak Island is the oldest lure there is. The need to know. 6 men have died in that pursuit. The legend says a 7th must, before the island yields what it holds. Every summer the drills start again. Every summer someone climbs down. The pit is still open. It is still waiting. The only question is what it is waiting for. This has been Stories of Place and Time, where history keeps its secrets and we go looking anyway. Subscribe and we will meet you at the next mystery.